What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Real Fans FC. And today we're going to be talking about all the best March matchups leading into this international window. This is going to be the last, well, second to last international window as we lead into the World Cup. And there's a lot of really juicy matchups to talk about. I want to start off by saying I'm not going to get all of them, and I had to really narrow it down to 10. But quite honestly, there's about 15 to 20 like matchups that I'm super pumped to at least try to watch. But if not, go check out the highlights because there's a lot of like really good, interesting friendlies against teams that are going to be in the World Cup. So if you don't hear this matchup being called that you're super pumped for, let me know in the comments down below. Give me which ones you want to see, which ones you're excited about. But here's mine. So the first one, it's going to be kind of a layup one. It is a powerhouse matchup between France and Brazil. I'm curious to see how Brazil will perform against another contender. It's kind of an interesting game from the Brazil perspective because Brazil's been kind of this enigma lately where you don't really know what Brazil you're going to get. You have this plethora of different of talent in different positions, but they're not able to really put it together. Now under Carlo Ancelotti, they've been able to be a little bit better, and he's been able to kind of rally the boys and play in a more cohesive way. But I do think this French matchup is going to be a really good test for them because they haven't really played a whole lot recently against the top level of European opposition. And I think a team like France, who is also competing for the World Cup, and that I actually have a little bit over Brazil in my power rankings, I'm really curious to see how they're going to compete against them. If they're able to put up a good showing and even win this game, then I'm going to feel a lot better as they lead into that June window, as well as obviously into the World Cup. And the next one, not to be funny, but it's France versus Colombia. And it's not even from the France perspective. Sure, there's a lot of interesting storylines when it comes to France. Like, will they be able to shore themselves up defensively because they've been a little leaky in the back and they're obviously going through kind of a transitional period right now, but obviously we kind of know what we're getting when it comes to France. Now, Colombia, this is an amazing matchup for Colombia. This is a really good test for them because outside of a one Spain game that they had, I believe, last year, which was a Spanish B team, they haven't really played too much out of CONMEBOL. They've looked good against Argentina and Brazil, but this will give us a good idea of how competitive that they are against these top level oppositions. Colombia seems to be a real threat to be reckoned with, and they are a dark horse for a lot of people, including myself. So this matchup against France will really give us a good idea. Is like, okay, is this team truly a dark horse? Can they actually do it? Or will they kind of like wet themselves as they go against France and just not and look a shell of themselves as they did in World Cup qualifying as well as in the Copa America in 2024? As for the third game, this is a really interesting one for me, and that is Uzbekistan versus Gabon. Gabon obviously was a team that was fighting to get into the World Cup and wasn't able to get in. They got eliminated out. But I'm really excited to see this from the Uzbekistan perspective because they're going to be playing a team outside of Asia. Obviously, they do not have a ton of experience with teams outside of Asia leading into 2025. They got a couple friendlies. They had one against, I believe, Australia or New Zealand, and then they had one against Mexico. That was a really good showing as well. And I believe Canada, if I'm not mistaken. But Gabon is a really interesting African side that is very dynamic, and they have experience against really good level teams. So I'm really curious to see how Uzbekistan matches up against a team of this stature that you don't really get in Asia. Asia tends to be, or tries to at least be, a little bit more technical of a play versus the African national teams tend to be a lot more athletic and a lot tougher to keep up with. So I'm really curious how they're going to be able to handle that, which they're going to need to, considering the group that they're going to be in with the likes of Portugal and Colombia. As for my fourth matchup, I have the Netherlands versus Norway. Norway, man, they had an amazing World Cup qualifying run. They've been one of the hottest teams in the world. But one of the things everybody's going to say is like, well, this Italy team is not the Italy team they're supposed to be. For whatever reason, they're chronic underperformers. So people are holding that over their head. But look, at the end of the day, this Italian team is still a very talented team. Yes, they can't put the pieces together. But the fact that Norway just went into that group and just dominated everybody, you have to put respect on their name. But to their defense, I do want to see Norway play against another top level opposition that isn't Italy, a team that's a little bit more consistent in these type of tournaments, and that is the Netherlands. The Netherlands are always a consistent powerhouse in these tournaments. They're always going in runs, at least quarter or semifinals, and even finals, like we saw in 2014, or 2018. No, 2014, whichever. They've been making runs in the World Cup. This is nothing new to them. They haven't been able to get over that hump and actually win one. But I am really curious to see how this matchup shakes out. Netherlands obviously have a very, very talented defensive line, but they underperform. You would think with a guy like Virgil van Dijk in the back that they would be able to really hold up well against some of these top level teams, but they tend to struggle. So I'm really curious to see how this Norway offense goes against this Netherlands defense, and I think it'll be a really good test to see how those boys in Scandinavia are going to be able to play. Now, number 5, we have Germany versus Switzerland. Switzerland has been flying under the radar that no one's been talking about. And they have a big game against Germany, which can bring a massive confidence boost to the boys, because this Switzerland team, like I said, man, they've been coasting and no one's been talking about them because it's Switzerland, like they don't have any super mega stars. They have a ton of talent, but they just don't have that guy that everybody's talking about. And this Swiss team is going to go against a Germany team that is immensely talented, but I feel like are not really reaching the potentials that they should be. So I think for both teams, they need this game to kind of prove themselves of like they are for real. They're going to be taking it, because Germany, they've been pretty inconsistent against really good competition, because there's moments where they looked really good, like they had a really good Euros up until they lost Musiala, and then they just kind of been up and down, up and down, up and down, while Switzerland has slowly been raising their level. So I think this is going to be a really good matchup to kind of see where each teams are at. And that's kind of the story of a lot of these matchups, is like, okay, a lot of these teams are kind of getting a little step up or getting a equal matchup that they haven't necessarily seen, or there's a lot of stylistic interesting matchups that are going to happen. Now, as for number 6, we have USA versus Portugal. How will the USA play against a team that is a clear favorite? The last time USA played against a European team, they got smoked. They played Turkey and they played Switzerland, with the Switzerland game specifically being really, really bad. And the USA, and this is a team that I follow a lot because obviously I cover CONCACAF, they play a bunch of teams that are either a level worse than them or equal. And their friendlies have kind of been more of the same. This is going to be the first friendly where they're truly going to be put up against the tests of some of the best, because quite honestly, they haven't really gotten that in the past few years. It's like the only other ones I can really think of is Switzerland and Turkey, and that they don't even necessarily reach the levels of what Portugal should be. And I think this is their opportunity to kind of identify what their play style is going to be against these level of opponents, because this is how they're going to make runs. If you want to make runs in the World Cup, you got to perform against some of the top 10 nations in the world, and Portugal is one of them, with one of the most high flying attacks in the world. Will USA and will Pochettino actually like take a step back and realize, okay, we are the United States. Let's sit back. Let's kill them on the counter. We have guys up top that can run with the best of them and can score. I'm really curious to see how they're going to do it. Or will Pochettino say, like, you know what? We got this. We're going to go bar for bar, punch for punch. And I just don't think that's going to work out for them. But I am super curious to how they're going to approach this game. Now, number 7, we have England versus Japan. Now, this is a statement game for each team, depending on how the results go. For Japan, this is just another feather in their cap against a top-level European opposition, and I think they need this for sure leading into this World Cup. Now, as for England, England needs a win against a quality team, because first off, England has not played against a lot of good opposition, because their World Cup qualifying group was not the toughest group in the world. And on top of that, the last big, really competitive matchup that they had was against Senegal, and they lost 3-1 at home. While a good Senegalese team, they don't have the same talent that an England has, and Senegal pretty much bodied England that game. Now, Japan is a different type of monster in the way that they play, and they may match up well stylistically, but Japan's also no slouch either. And I think this is a chance for England to kind of get a wake-up call and be like, okay, we need to get a good win against a good team. So for both teams, this needs to be a morale boost. Now, number 8, we have Morocco versus Ecuador. And I'm not picking this game because it's going to be a high-flying, entertaining matchup, because it probably isn't. Morocco and Ecuador are both kind of have similar identities, which to me are always the most interesting in how they're going to play out. When you have two defensive-minded, counter-attacking style teams have to go up against each other, who's going to be the one that grows a pair and actually goes after the game? I think it's going to be Morocco in this case, because I think Morocco trusts the talent that they have up top. And quite honestly, they have much more talent up top than Ecuador. Now, as from the Ecuador side, will they be able to score against Morocco? Because Ecuador has not scored over 2 goals in Lord knows how long. And most of the games they've just scored 1. They just don't have really any attacking presence at all. They have a really good defense and also a really good midfield, but just nothing in the attack that can really like shake the fear into anybody. So if they can look dangerous in this game and at least put a couple goals away, to me, they have to be able to do that if they want any chance of actually going on a dark horse run. Because quite honestly, I know a lot of people have Ecuador as a dark horse. I don't really have them as a dark horse because they struggle to score. It's one thing if you have the ability to stay defensively solid, but if you can't be dangerous in that attack when you need to, I have a hard time picking against you or picking for you. So I'm really curious. I think that's where Morocco is a little different than Ecuador. Morocco just has a little bit more talent in the attack that just makes them scary. And we saw what they did in the 2022 World Cup. Now, for number 9, now this is a fun one, man. This game is for the vibes. I just got to see what's going to happen with this game. And that is Australia versus Curacao. This is going to be a really, really interesting one. You have an Australian team that historically is very defensive. Not historically, but at least as of recently, they've been a very defensive-minded team. But they're going to have to get a little bit more aggressive against Curacao, because I promise you, I do not think Curacao is going to try to go after Australia. I'd be really surprised. They didn't really even do it against a team like a Trinidad or Jamaica. They kind of waited and then got them on the counter. And this could be really, really dangerous for Australia. I almost see an upset alert, because I don't necessarily trust Australia's ability to maintain ball control. And Curacao, while granted it was against lesser competition, but even in the Gold Cup when we saw against Canada, they've been able to be really scary in that counter. And will Australia be able to hold up? We'll see. I would say probably so. But what also makes this great from a Curacao perspective is that you're getting a match outside of CONCACAF. They don't get a lot of those. I don't even remember the last time. If you're a Curacao fan, let me know the last time you guys faced somebody out of CONCACAF, because I know it's very, very rare. And that's really important, quite honestly. And I'm also curious, will we see what we saw in the World Cup qualifying for Curacao translate over at the international stage? And will they be able to compete against a team that they're not very familiar with? Now, as for the final game, this one's pretty much the same as Curacao versus Australia. We have a Haiti versus Tunisia. Now, I do put a little bit more respect on Tunisia. I think they're a higher quality team than Australia. But as for Haiti, this is the game I want to see from Haiti, like actually look like, hey, let's go out there, let's compete. I want to see them go against the team. I think this is a great, great matchup for Haiti. Kind of in the same boat as Curacao, where they don't have a ton of experience outside of CONCACAF. Like I said, it's been a while, and I think this game is a really, really good game to gain that experience against a World Cup level team that is not just any World Cup level team, but a World Cup level team that is going to be competitive come this summer. At least we think so. Now, this will be their toughest matchup that Haiti has faced in a long time, because even in the Gold Cup, the USA team that they faced wasn't necessarily the best, and neither was Saudi Arabia. They didn't necessarily bring their best out there. So this is going to be a really competitive match against Haiti, and I'm really curious to see how well they compete. They looked good against Costa Rica. They looked good against Honduras. But quite honestly, I think Tunisia is a level above them, and I want to see how Haiti does, and will they be able to stay defensively solid? Because one thing we saw from Haiti in this past World Cup qualifying was that defensively they looked very poor. They looked very susceptible, especially in the counter when they got kind of caught off guard. So I'm really curious to see if Haiti is what their game plan is going to be, and if they're going to be able to maintain that defensive solidity as we reach towards the World Cup. So those are my most anticipated games coming this March window. Like I said, I only picked 10. I had to narrow it down, but there was countless others I wanted to talk about. There's games like USA versus Belgium. There was the Portugal versus Mexico. Quite a few games that are honestly all really, really good. I think all the federations did a really good job of picking ones. I haven't necessarily found one that I was like, man, that's a really bad window. So anyways, like I said, I hope you guys let me know in the comments down below what games you're most excited for. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Peace out, everybody.